Hello and welcome to Roy's Rambles, and today we have a real treat for you. Behind me is the first of many Victorian shops that were demolished over 100 years ago and then transported brick by brick to this particular site and rebuilt. And so we are actually stepping back in history today. Here we are, a Victorian toy shop, complete with Victorian rocking horse and magic lantern. So behind me is a Victorian tobacconist. To my left is what looks like a Victorian parlour of a small terraced house. Okay, so to my right we have another typical house of the period, including all its furnishings. But there's something particularly interesting about this house, and that's if you look inside, you'll notice that there's no staircase. To get to the upper landing, you climb up that ladder to your right on the wall. Actually, we'll give you a better angle than that. We'll go to the other window so you can get a better look at it. To my right, a gaming machine. Well, I say a gaming machine, it told your fortune. This one looks similar to the one on the film Bigger. To my right, what used to be the old-fashioned chemist, I think it was called an apothecary or something like that. And if you take a look inside, you'll see all the jars, all the Victorian jars, all full of all the old chemicals and minerals that they used to mix together in order to make old-fashioned medicines. Okay, now here we have a carriage, which I would have took a ride on, apart from the fact we're lacking a horse. But very interesting, very nice. Now, for any of you people that are interested in mail, the Royal Mail, and the history of our postal service, we have a very ornate Victorian post box. I must say that it's not that dissimilar to modern post boxes where they still exist. So behind me is a Victorian pub, one on every corner, and please take note of the beautiful leaded light panel above the door. To my left, you'll see a pawnbroker's shop. Now, there are still plenty of those around. A second carriage, again, horseless. And I think they used to call the first motor cars horseless carriages. This literally is horseless, there's no horse on it. At the end of this Victorian street is the people who lived at the other end of the spectrum, a posh home. And we'll take a look inside, through the window, of course, and you'll get an idea of how the other half lived. Now, to my right, we have what looks like a farrier's shop. You've got to remember that the main transport then was horses, and blacksmith shops and farriers were a very, very common occurrence in Victorian times. So you can live in Victorian society without a decent wig. Now, the shoe shop or cobblers, again, fairly common occurrence, but there's one particularly interesting uh, pair of shoes in this window, and they're down here. I believe he used to dance on them, the little chap who wore them, a bit like a ballet dancer. Now, I'm not doing a rendition of the Statue of Liberty. What I am doing is illuminating this window for you so you can see all the suites. And a fair selection there is. I don't think suites have changed that much since Victorian times. They're still practically made of sugar, and nothing much has changed with respect to that. Very interesting. Here we are at the entrance of the museum here at Salford University. We've just come out. We didn't want to give you the exact location of where we were initially. We were hoping that you would guess as we went round, but we're in Salford. We're at the old Salford University, and this is the university museum. The collection of paintings in the art gallery are upstairs, and the Victorian Street is downstairs. Entry is free, and there's plenty of parking, so no problem there. When you go in, you'll be given a lantern, which is very, very good. Very atmospheric inside, but they are old buildings. So, yeah, I think that's a bit about it. Now, there is also a couple of more interesting things around the museum and the university. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and have a look at a particularly interesting staircase down to a particular interesting park. So we'll take a look around. Towards my left is the River Irwell, which runs through the park and around the Crescent, and then it runs back into Manchester, into the Manchester Centre. To my right is the actual way into the garden section of the park. So let's continue. Cut. So here we are at the top of this very impressive staircase. Well, I say very impressive. It's not very impressive anymore. Obviously, Salford Council have rebuilt it. Now it's a modern staircase. But the original staircase, which is very similar to this, maybe a little bit wider, was a Victorian staircase, and it was featured in a film called Howard's End, which is quite a famous black and white vintage film, starring Charles Lawton, who was an actor of that time, and it was based on a book by Forrester, and it's actually studied, that book, in the universities as part of English literature. It's an interesting book, but it's also a very interesting film. Now, in that film, you see him walk down this staircase, or the original staircase that was there, and into Odsal Park. I'm going to step to the side, and so that you can have a look over the park to see what it comprises of. So behind me is some kind of red brick structure, some kind of folly in the same bricks as the old university behind me. Looks like Salford Council have boarded it up, rather not boarded it up, but caged it up. No, it's not so it can hold parrots. I think it's to stop homeless people sheltering in it out of the bad weather, rain, etc. They'd know the reasons if you want to contact them, ask them why. For me, it ruins the look of it, but that's only my opinion. So now we're going to have a good look round and get an aerial view.